Welcome to the Fit2 Talk podcast.
Yes, you just found the #1 health and fitness podcast for performers, and you're listening to a guest episode during which we discuss the realities of a career in the performing arts with people who are fit to talk about them.
Yes, and if you like what we do, please leave us a review, or on Spotify, click that follow button.
If you follow us, we're back up to 5 stars, so it's
we
key
are.
for us. We'll talk about it on another episode. Also, if you like our meaningful, helpful, and accurate information and want to be coached by us, then maybe Fit to Perform is for you.
Yeah, you can find out more information on Instagram or over on our website.
Moving on, we have two incredible guests for you today.
Yeah, you are not wrong. For the very first time, we got a double guest episode, and it is an absolute banger. Now, they don't really need an introduction, but I'm going to do one anyway, because that's what I do. So first up, we've got none other than the Tony Award-winning Frances Ruffelle. Now, Broadway World summed her up like this. I'm going to read it. Accurate. Frances Ruffelle is a wild woman, one of the most fascinating singing actresses and artistic storytellers in the business of show. The Tony Award winner for the original Les Misérables has spent her life captivating audiences. On the stage, off the stage, in the clubs, on the internet, Frances Ruffelle is a true blue original.
Wow.
And she's done it all. She's done Roxy in Chicago, Queenie in The Wild Party, and Piaf in Pam Gem's Piaf, even Birds of a Feather. Yeah. She's a recording artist, composer, and writer. I mean, this is like the prologue of the book. That is her CV. And then her partner in talent is none other than Norman Bowman, or Beausy, who's also got a CV as long as a Chekhov play. But he's made a career of playing every single leading man you've ever heard of, including Marius in Les Misérables, Danny in Grease, Munkastrap in Cats, Tony in West Side Story, Billy Bigelow in Carousel, Sky in Guys and Dolls, and so many more, including some very sexy Shakespeare in there too.
Yes. They are a painfully attractive duo as well.
Yeah, they really
just
are.
objectify them for a moment. Sorry, I didn't ask their permission to do that. But
Take a moment.
But my goodness me. Please enjoy the wonderful Frances Ruffelle and Norman Bowman. Let's start with the gloves.
I'm intrigued by the
It's
gloves.
a cold day.
Before we go into, we are actually already recording. Just so you know,
Great. Okay. Yeah.
Always recording.
Always be recording.
Always be recording.
So one of the things that we ask all our guests to do is see if they can tell us a lie at some point during each episode, and we like to ask our listeners to see if they can guess, and we'll have a guess at the end as well.
Okay.
If you can slip.
You never know. You never know. There might be one.
We'll see.
Or two.
It's just a few.
I find it hard to lie because my whole thing about life is being truthful. So
You don't have to.
I only tell little white lies if I don't want to hurt someone.
Excellent. Well,
act.
we'll consider it an acting challenge. Or you can just rely on Norman to do it for you.
Yeah.
Well, I could tell one for us both.
Oh, and are you going to do that test thing, like where you do this or that?
Yes.
There is
Can we do it just
cool.
with Beausy instead of me?
Yeah.
Is that all right? 'Cause
Yeah.
he's really fast. Otherwise, you'll be here all day with me. I'll be going,
that might make it more entertaining. We watched
okay,
Sebastian
we can do
last
both.
night.
We can do both.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fun. It's really fun.
We've got
We
one
could
for
do
each of you.
both.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, do both.
All
We've
right
gotta do
then,
both.
but I might take
And then
ages.
if it takes ages, we can always go.
Yeah. So boring.
7 minutes.
About all the gaps. There we go.
We'll hear your thought process through each one of those things.
Okay.
So let's kick off with the gloves then. Tell
Yeah.
us the glove story.
Oh, because it's so cold today.
Yeah.
I do have these gloves. They were set when I did Les Mis in America. Before we went to Broadway, we did Washington DC. So I was 21 years old, first Christmas away from mum and dad, and they sent a stocking which miraculously arrived on the 24th of December. And in the stocking were these beautiful little mittens, which used to have strings on. So I didn't, so I wouldn't lose them. But somehow it's been like they've been without strings for about 20 years. So we're talking, look, let's be honest, here, I'm 58 and I'm not ashamed to be 58. So I was 21. This is how old these gloves are. Older than you. So
they're in better nick than my current gloves.
I think they've had a bit of a moth attack at some point. And they've actually got a really convenient hole now because these are before mobile phones, but now I can use the mobile phone with this one. I don't know how I still got them, but I still have, and I love them.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
Do you actually use them?
I do, yeah.
So you've used them for that period of time?
Yeah,
Are they,
I have. Not
handmade or
every
something?
day, but I sort of have had them like by the front door or in a coat pocket or in the car.
That's what's all the more miraculous, though. Gloves, umbrellas, big pens, they're the kind of things that belong to nobody and end up being lost, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you have managed to hold on to them for that long.
Just shows I have got a brain.
I was like, who's saying that you don't?
Voices in our head.
Is that to Norman or to the voices in
Just quieting everything down.
But I actually do. I do have my umbrella, my favourite umbrella. I still have as well, and I've had that for 20 years.
Okay, this is a skill. A skill I don't have.
No, I can't keep hold of anything.
Umbrellas are gone. I have umbrellas for like 3 months, and then
You constantly lose umbrellas.
I actually make a habit of not using them because I think I'll lose them.
Yes.
So they're by my door looking fantastic. I'm like, I'll get wet. I just get wet. But gloves, no, they disappear all the time for me.
You have to love them.
That's where I'm going wrong.
I had this thing with sunglasses. I was like, every time I got like cheap sunglasses, lost them instantly.
Yeah.
Bought a nice pair of sunglasses. I was like, no, I'm just going to treasure them the whole time. I never lose them. There is something about that. Something you really like, something you treasure.
And that's true.
You're not going to misplace.
But also, but all these are so occasional. And you have to kind of remind yourself you've got one extra thing with you that day. That's the point, isn't it? But why don't they sell them with a little tag?
Well, we could put our little
We could put
Apple
like an
tags
Apple tag on.
Or like the air
Yeah,
tag.
yeah.
You've stolen that is my umbrella.
They're walking down the street.
Chasing them.
By the way,
It's not that they're important or anything. It's just they're a pain in the arse to lose and they cost money.
By the way, for anyone listening from abroad and who's not in the UK, it's probably quite weird for us to say it's an occasional thing to have an umbrella, but it is.
It really is. Yeah. The assumption. Always.
I suppose it depends on where they're from, doesn't it? Or if they're like, if they're Australian.
If they're Australian.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're totally right. Well, usually, this is our very first episode that we've had 2 guests at the same time. I think I mentioned that to you in an email.
It's a special moment.
So our first question is, normally, where does the story of your life begin? But that's quite complicated to do with 2 people. So let's see if we can meld that together into one sort of beginning.
Go on, Stefan, I believe in you.
Let me structure this in a fascinating way. I guess, how did you come to be here today?
Oh,
Together, I mean.
Well, perhaps. What does that question mean
what
to
does it
you?
mean to you?
Okay. You go first, babe.
Okay.
Under the bus. There we go.
So, once upon a time, back in 1995, I had just graduated from college and my first job was Les Mis and I was understudy Marius. And the contracts were much shorter then. They were about 6 months, which was such a joy. Yeah. Oh my God, it was amazing. Can you imagine such a thing? And they were asking you like 4 months in if you wanted to stay. And that was an easier way to decide if you wanted a year, of course. Now they ask you for a year and they ask you about 5 months in if you want to stay another year. And it just drives me nuts how much of a commitment that is. But back then, I was moving up from second cover to first cover Marius. And at that time, Frankie, almost 10 years later,
Yes.
was returning as Eponine. She had a mortgage to pay
I still have.
by her own admission. So she was making a comeback, and our Marius at the time was a guy called Mario Frangoulis, who's a dear friend of both of us, but certainly of Frankie's. And Mario liked to go off at the weekend.
I don't think he'll be very happy that you're
Well,
telling
you know
him.
what? You must be first to admit it. I used to get a call on a Friday quite regularly going, "Do you want to go in this weekend?" And I'm like, absolutely. So I ended up getting on as Marius for quite some time. Anyway, we worked together way back then. We're talking 28 years ago. Coming up for 29 years ago. And, obviously kind of liked each other anyway as human beings. And none of us really remember performing together a lot.
Not really.
Even though we must
I know
have.
I did do it with
We
you.
definitely did.
We're like, did anyone photograph it or something?
I have a theory behind that. When you do something 8 times a week, it's very hard to remember lots of instances. It kind of comes to you as like one show almost.
Yeah.
You know, they're bits of moments of the show that you then put together. Like when I did Guys and Dolls with Patrick Swayze, I had about 6 months with the man, but I could not tell you more than maybe one night of working with him.
Yeah.
Because it all felt very, very similar 8 times a week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to forgive us that, being the age that we are.
We do remember each other from
Oh,
that
God,
time,
yeah.
but not
because-
actually how it was to be on stage with each other.
No.
Maybe I blanked it because it was terrible.
Maybe you did. Oh, Mario, come back.
Vice versa.
You were calling Marius
Damn it,
going,
Mario's not on again.
to work.
I don't care where you are. I don't care who you're singing for.
If you call Norman next Friday, I'm going to...
I don't know if that was the case. But what I do remember is the girls all went out for a meal one time. And the next day, it was relayed back to me that they had a little chat about who they liked.
A little voting competition thing, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was marks out of 10 or something like who they were giving their 10 out of 10 out of 10 to, and she gave me 10 out of 10.
Hey! Which bodes well now.
Oh my God, yeah.
Thank God, yeah.
Imagine back then you were like, 7.
Oh, I would have been happy with a 7.
Take a 7.
Frances Ruffelle.
I've only got to 6, so...
I'll take a mention. Some sort of honorary mention. But that, you know, Frankie you just had your 3rd child.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was engaged to be married. So we were in very different places in our lives, you know. And of course, there was nothing.
Flirted a bit.
Yeah, there was
But
nothing.
it's very harmless. You know, the backstage thing where you
musical
pinch each
theatre.
other's bums and things.
Right.
Before the Me Too
Before you can't do
thing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, didn't we all? Like, that's, I think that's part of the, not part of the job, but part of the joy of it, right? Especially back then.
Yeah.
Now,
listen.
Now we must pretend everyone is a statue.
In the Les Mis sort of second act, do you hear people sing slow motion? And everyone was like doing the slow motion thing and touching people's arses.
Was there always, you're like, I don't remember that.
I don't. I do remember other untoward things like there's a guy that used to walk around from dressing room to dressing room with a bag of brownies, not hash browns, hash cookies, and basically offering to sell them like hello, do you want like that brazen, you know?
Yeah.
There was a lot, of course, that used to happen that we couldn't really do now, or
Possibly shouldn't be chatting about.
we can,
we'll-
but we can. But it's like
Yeah.
like the rock and roll days, you know.
Yeah.
It used to happen.
Yeah,
It
it's
used to be much
unspoken,
more
but it just kind of
edgy.
happened.
And that's changed quite recently, I feel. I don't know if you feel the same thing. I feel like when I started, certainly when you started, for the first 5 or 6 years, that was all still quite commonplace.
Yeah.
And then within the last 5 or 6 years, it's been like a rapid change, or at least that's my perception of it.
Yeah.
Because
You're
everyone has to
probably
be
right.
so careful. Now I understand that, but I also think it's sort of made us so beige.
You have to permanently be on guard for going, oh, what could be perceived a certain way.
Yeah.
And in a
no
world
shame.
where we celebrate being open and honest and being free loving and having like one of the best jobs in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all in the same camp there. You know, we're all kind of going, oh my God, isn't this incredible? And now we have to, unfortunately, watch every single thing that we say, do, feel, think.
Yeah.
And even act. I mean, you know, the passion is a little bit kind of tempered by too much reliance now on validation, reviews, blah, blah, blah. You know, everybody has an opinion now. You know? It's really, really hard financially to put on a show because you could just have it all undone. I mean, Les Mis, famous, right? Absolutely slated by the press.
Yeah.
Absolutely slated.
Yeah.
Next day, queues round the block. I mean, that doesn't happen quite like that anymore.
Maybe it had queues around the block because it was slated.
Well, no, I think it was because they probably went, well, if the press...
Yeah, the evidence suggests otherwise. Long term. But yeah, so what is that like then, existing in this industry now for both of you, that it's so vastly different from when you first started? For instance, you know, you've returned to Les Mis 10 years after, and it's continued to be part of your sort of, dare I say, legacy, you know, at this
I'm
point.
very, very lucky. Very unusual situation to happen. So, yeah, that was butting in, wasn't it?
No, it was, but very, very valid. Like, what is that? How do you feel it's different now from back then? beyond what you've already said?
Well, Beausy, you know more than me because I don't really work very often. I write a lot, and so I'm not really constantly in the West End treading the boards. You're always doing shows, so maybe you could answer.
That was under the bus right back, wasn't it?
It's a little bit, isn't it? God, it is quite a big question these days, though, isn't it? Because I'm aware when I talk to students, I don't want to put them off. You know, they have every right to pursue their dreams with the same unbridled, untainted, untempered kind of passion that we had back then. But my God, it's so hard now. It's so hard. It's oversubscribed, and it's far more, I'd say, of a business now. Perhaps closer to the way things are in America. That unfortunately the passion does get side railed because it requires so much more of us now. It's not just about the performing. You know, when you consider you've got to be aware of like self-tapes. I mean, we're meant to be sound technicians, camera operators. I just think it's too much for us. But you know, they have the bounty of choice. Yeah. They have the embarrassment of riches now because, wow, the talent out there is incredible. I definitely would not have had my career had I started now. Because back then...
I saw you say this on a different interview, and I was like, that's very humble, isn't it?
No, that's not. That's not full modesty. I watch every day, at some point, I see something that just makes me go, wow. And, you know, we talk about on Instagram, YouTube.
Yeah, Instagram Reels and things.
Incredible talent, which I believe was always there. And this is what they talk about. It's not as if all of a sudden... there's this explosion of talent and stuff. It's always been there, but opportunities are far more now. You can make yourself, you know, famous, or you can make yourself access.
Maybe.
But back then, I mean, there was people I did amateur dramatics with who were far more talented than me. But it was never something that they could ever pursue professionally. I'm not. It's true. It's true.
Come on, you have a voice to die for. Even last night sitting on the sofa, I was like, wish I could sing like you.
Oh yeah, famous. I can sing higher than her, and she can sing lower than me.
It's true.
It's very true. Which is where Frankie and Beausy kind of works really well.
We swap the harmonies over.
I love that. That's amazing. But we should explain. So Frankie and Beausy is your show, right? We've been sort of looking at this quite extensively over since seeing you coming in. It looks awesome. Can you tell us just a little bit about it and how people can come and watch?
Oh no, it's me now.
Tag you in.
Well, we've got quite a few shows coming up. We've got Manchester Feb 4th, and we've got London Crazy Cocks Feb 7th, and then we have March 29th in London. And we're adding more, and we're going to try and travel around, do Scotland as well, UK mainly. We've just done New York. So it will be on just easy to say this, it will be on our website, frankieandbeausy.com, or on our Instagrams. But
Plug.
Well, you know, so I'm like,
a requested plug, a requested one. So.
Okay.
So, but it came about really. We just decided to do a cabaret act together. But I've done a lot of one-woman shows in the past.
Amazing one-woman show.
So I said to Beausy, do you mind if we do it more like, instead of like a cabaret, it's more like a theatre piece, but in a cabaret space. So it's an intimate theatre piece, and it's about Frankie and Beausy who meet at Edinburgh train station many, many years ago. And basically it's a show about the ups and downs of imperfectly perfect relationships. And it's funny, it's heartbreaking and joyous.
Yeah. And we don't shy away from the honesty of relationships and their ups and downs. Because, we've both been married. We've got 5 kids between us.
Yeah.
So we've definitely been on a journey. But Frankie's one-woman shows, you know, they've always gone down an incredible storm. So being invited to collaborate on something was exciting and daunting. No, it's true.
But, you know, you have done those one-woman shows both on Broadway here, and they've been incredibly successful and audiences love them.
Yeah, I do unique ones, that's for sure. But it's a highlight, but it's also my downfall because I don't just fit into the regular sort of. Next song I'm going to sing is about you know when I did Starlight Express or whatever. I don't do any of it, and I've stuck to that. And I always do stories and write vignettes in between. We wrote them together for Frankie and Beausy, funny little vignettes in between the songs, and very sort of inspired by sort of Ian Jury. I don't know if you know Ian Jury. Yeah. Okay. You look so much younger then.
Good. We'll take it. We'll tell you our real ages afterwards.
That's so exciting though, like doing it differently, doing it with a narrative. I think that's, like, I've seen so many cabarets and they just become the same. You forget what you're watching because you're right, they're just telling stories or anecdotes and you're like, no, let's make it something else. That's way more exciting. Theatre. Yeah, let's make it theatre. Theatre in a different setting.
It's not that it's not interesting to hear about people's life stories. I think it really is. But for me, what happened was that I couldn't speak on stage. Every time Danielle Torrento produced my first one-woman show, and she said, "You just can't speak, can you?" I could not speak to the audience. I'd start stuttering. It was I couldn't be myself. Mm-hmm. So then I just did a song cycle for the first one-woman show, and then eventually wrote the vignettes and things, and it became part of my style. Now our style.
That's fascinating. Why? Because I think a lot of people will identify with that. I personally do. I know you do too. Like, what happens, do you think, in that setting that makes you less comfortable? Because you've done everything on stage. When you have to speak as you, what is it that messes with you?
Well, it's not that I haven't got the confidence to stand there and be myself. I certainly have when I sing because I go off the wall and really do some crazy stuff performance-wise. I try to think it's performance art, really. But it's words for me are difficult. I always lose words. I've always done it all my life. I've been diagnosed as dyslexic when I was 13 years old, but I actually, to this day, don't think I'm dyslexic, but I definitely think that we're all on the spectrum in certain ways, and I definitely have my own little spectrum, where I cannot think of words, can I? Silly little words, and I've always had this sort of word blindness thing, and then if I'm in a position where I've got an audience, I find it very hard to speak, and it's happened on TV as well a few times in interviews. I literally just stopped, couldn't think of a word, and I might do it today.
It may well happen.
It happens to me all the time.
It does, and it's very welcome if it happens. We can always cut it out. If you want to.
But I'm okay with being honest. We're not all perfect, and that holds me back. And other little things hold me back in my life as well. But those same sort of things, what goes on in my head, has worked for me creatively. So I'm grateful for it as well.
I really love that. I think part of what we were saying earlier on about where sort of theatre has gone to is this. And I think what we do is about celebrating how imperfect we are and being able to share our weaknesses and vulnerabilities and flaws in a way and celebrate them. And I think there's something really, I hope you don't mind me commenting on this. The way you speak to each other is really lovely to see. You seem so nice to each other, kind and
nice. We are.
And it seems obvious, but you don't often, sadly, you don't actually often see people treat their partner in that way. And it's so lovely. And I wonder if that's part of the thing of going, once you know your own weaknesses and flaws and things, then you can love them and work on them too, but also love them in somebody else, and I don't know, Bobby, how does your wife...
She speaks very highly of me. Sometimes.
But does that resonate with you in any way?
We have little moments and it's usually me, not Beausy. He's unbelievable.
No, that's not fair.
But we're good at pointing out things if we've been upset by each other and then we deal with it. We don't have arguments. We just...
No, and it's acknowledging we're both of a certain age. We've both got things that are far more deep-rooted. So it's understanding where we can kind of compromise, meet in the middle, teach each other something else. I mean, I feel like she's popped the cap on certain things for me, especially creatively. I've spent most of my life doing takeover roles, and I'm grateful for it, and I love it. But to be in a position to create, especially with somebody like Frankie, and to realize that you have potential for creation, and expanding even at this age, one's kind of creativity, soul, horizons. I think that's the best thing that we could do for each other.
We help each other with
I'm
different
trying
things.
to-
Yeah.
yeah.
He helps me with patience. I don't have as much patience.
Said sort of surreptitiously on the side.
And loads of other things, but we do help. We balance each other.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so glorious. Sorry to put you on the spot there. I hope that was okay.
That's absolutely fine. I didn't realize this was a therapy session.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? It's something that people, because the podcast's called Fit2 Talk, they assume we're going to talk about fitness. And we're like, no, it's about being fit to perform as a human being and everything that takes, right? So everything that comes to you as a human, all of your thoughts and everything about your existence and your sort of your being. How do you manage to get to work and work constantly on the boards, as you said, Frankie? And what do you do in the meantime? In fact, this is an interesting question. You said you don't work that often. Obviously, you're
As far as theatre, as far as you know, I work every single day.
Of course. Well, you said you're writing a new musical. Is that right?
Yeah, so I've written quite a few things and songs all my life as well. So, but I've written a musical called, at the moment, the title is called I Can Die Too, and it's co-written with Alan Cumming and Sally George, and
So no one we know.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine.
and it's we have our first script workshop at the end of January, 23rd, and then 2-week fully cast workshop in March.
Wow.
Which is really exciting.
Congratulations.
That's amazing.
What's that process been like?
Well, hard. It's been banging on doors and things. I don't like doing that sort of stuff. But also, it's taken a long time to get it to where it is now, as in writing the piece. And so I guess there's going to be a lot more writing now with the workshops and everything. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So I guess I started writing in 2019. I took the idea to Alan Cumming in New York. The two of us started writing it in front of a whole group of university students, which was really scary.
Yeah, no pressure.
Was that intentional? Or?
Yeah, we were taken to a residency by New York Theatre Workshop. I don't know if people know that company, but it's very much like the Royal Court here. So very, very, of course I can't think of the word, but I was honoured to be part of that residential, that they took us there and they helped us with the writing and it was great. The kids as well, what amazing kids. They were all part of it and listening to it and giving us suggestions. And it took us back to being teenagers. And in fact, it went back so much that the piece is really, really about a teenage pregnancy, which happened to me. So it's not autobiographical. I can't say the word.
Autobiographical.
Thank you, darling. But it's inspired by my own experience. I was pregnant when I was 15, so it's inspired by that. And it's also set on a stage because what do I know about theatre? So it's set in a technical rehearsal.
Wow.
Oh.
So, and it's a play within a play and blah, blah, blah. It's very complicated. And this is why we need to do the workshops, because there's some singing that is the real person. There's some singing in the play within the play. And how do you differentiate that? And, so a lot of things to deal with, but it's a very female piece. And we have a wonderful female director on board for the workshops. Hannah, I hope I get her name pronounced right. Hannah Hare King. And when we met with her on Zoom, which I've never done that, been on that side of the desk before, it was actually more nerve-wracking than being on the other side. But, when you just feel I was in the presence of someone wonderful, and it reminded me of working with Trevor Nunn and John Caird all those years back, and how in awe I was of them, and how I completely gave myself to them and trusted them. And it's wonderful when you get a director you really can trust. And I feel that this same feeling is happening inside me, and I'm hoping that's what's going to happen this time.
Wow.
I feel that she's very strong.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
That's so exciting, and also to hear, that you write so much and you create all of those things. And only a moment ago you were saying that sometimes you struggle with words. I know that was about performance in that way.
Yeah, but it surprises me that I could be a writer. At school when I was 15, they wouldn't put me into we called it O-levels then. I think they became GCSEs. And they wouldn't put me into the English O-level because they thought I'd fail. And they actually put me down 2 years. So I was in the same class as my sister at school in English. But I have to say, with computers and thesauruses and things, I've learnt so much, and anyone can write. And I didn't realise that to call myself a writer is like such a weird thing. I'm now used to it, but for a few years I was like, I'm a writer. Just crazy. And we've also, the three of us, so Sally came on board as well. So Alan's basically so busy. I was like, can I get a friend to come on board to finish this play? And so Sally's come on board. She's amazing. And we've also written a movie version of this piece. And we've also written another play, me and Sally, called At Enormous Expense, set in the Victorian times as well. So we've got loads of things bubbling and projects.
At Enormous Expense. What made you choose the Victorian era?
Because my mum was an avid collector of music hall songs from Victorian times. So I grew up with all that. And I was so interested in the characters back then. I did a lot of research on those characters in the Victorian times. So I amalgamated like all the characters I read about into these characters I made up into these play. I also wrote that for a few years before before I took it to Sally. She's my saviour. Sally, can you help me? But I tried to do it alone because it was a bit of a challenge for me. But after 3 years, also it actually goes back and forth in time. It also goes to present day and Victorian times. So it's really, really complicated as well. So on my own, I was just feeling like my head is so scrambled. I can't do this alone anymore.
I don't think people understand the dedication required to write a full piece. Like it's not, because when people are in school, they go, "Oh, can you write a 3,000 word essay?" And you go, "Oh, well, how long is a play in words?" You're like, "Well, yeah, that's not really the thing, is it? Like, it's not about just writing the content. It takes so much. In fact, what do you think it takes? It's probably more interesting to hear from you than me.
I actually think it just takes to get the pen and paper out and start writing. As Somerset Maugham said, he wrote his name, my name is Somerset Maugham, my name is Somerset Maugham, and he carried on writing it until he could think of something better to write. But I actually do think that's what happened. I mean, obviously I had a little idea and I sort of started to write in both of them, because when I took the idea to Alan, the I Can Die Too idea, I had to take something to him in the first place. I had something in my head, so I had to start putting it down. And when we were going off to do the workshop, the original writing residency workshop, he said, "So we'll just write it there." And I was like, so before I went, I did my homework and I started writing some scenes and then took them to him, which he liked, and we worked on them. But I hadn't even written a scene from a play before, ever before. So I had to make myself do it. And I think if you go, "Oh, I don't feel like writing," you'll never write anything. You literally have to make it a job. Ben Elton also, I'm name dropping now, but I didn't know Somerset Maugham. Ben Elton, I asked him about it a long time ago, and he said he literally had in his diary where he'd write, and he'd go to the office and he'd just sit there and write. You have to make it a job.
And just keep doing it. I love that. This is a massive segue into something else, but I wanted to ask you, Norman, about something that you're also, this is word related, that's why. You're a celebrant, is that right? How did that come about?
Can you explain what celebrant means before? Because I meant something else.
It's definitely not the absence of sex.
Yeah.
As is often the response when I tell people what I am.
Apart from when we're really tired.
If that's what it was, and I casually brought that up, that would have been...
That's great.
Well, tying in with the earlier conversation about how different things are for the industry, I recognised that at one point I was going into a new phase in my career, being no longer the juvenile romantic lead, and as a consequence of that, less parts coming my way, getting, good parts like Dad's and still getting Shakespeare, things like that, but not quite the same. And if one kind of measures oneself by the work one was getting, then I started to think something's coming off the boil here. Maybe I'm losing it. Maybe I don't have quite what it takes anymore. And my last job before lockdown was in Belfast with Kiss Me Kate. And I met up with a friend of mine who I did Les Mis with, Peter Corey, who's a big Irish singer over there. And his wife, Fleur, is a celebrant too, when I'd asked what she was up to. Now, the thing is, I knew what a celebrant was before, but it never really it never clicked with me what it was and what it entailed until I really needed it. And I always kind of point towards this book called Ikigai that somebody gave to me a few years back. And it's got this wonderful kind of diagram on the back. And you'll forgive me if I don't remember all 4 circles, but one says something that you love, something that you're good at, something you could be paid for, and something that the world needs. And where they all intersect, there's another set, like profession, vocation, and I don't remember the others, but right in the middle is Ikigai. And I remember thinking, when the lockdown happened, I don't know how you felt, but I breathed so deeply. When I realized that nobody was getting any opportunities, that I wasn't missing out on anything as an actor, I felt everything expand outward rather than just like this. And I thought, okay, I have lived most of my life believing that performing is the one thing that I can do and that I need in order to kind of validate who I am, to pay my bills, to kind of have a sense of purpose, because it was that. And that was the thing that has seen me through life. When I admitted to myself it was no longer life or death, because it felt like that. And you have a pandemic where people are genuinely like dying. And you're like, okay, I need to get things in perspective here. And then I thought, okay, well, if I'm not going to rely on this one thing anymore, what else can I do? And that's why when I was in Belfast, there was more of that eureka moment that I thought, this is the thing. Because this is everything I already do, but it's applied in a very different way. And I was always wanting to do something that was literally and metaphorically a service, something where I was giving my skills. Because the thing is about being a performer is you're somewhat encouraged to be quite self-centered, self-focused, self-centric, because you've got to. In order to survive, you've got to keep thinking about how you look, how you present yourself, and it's like you say, it's that's part of an industry that I've never been particularly. I can't go out there banging a drum for myself like that, So to find something else that made me realize I can have a huge sense of validation because of how it makes me feel, and I can also give a service to people who don't have what it takes to do such things like funerals. Very often when I meet with the family, it's with any luck for them, it's the first time they've been in that situation. And they are listless. They don't know. They've got a funeral director in place and the funeral director will take care of all the practical side of things. But when it comes to that service, wow, the pressure on them, to pay homage, to do justice to somebody's life. But they don't know what it's like. They don't know what it entails. They don't know how to put it together. So the sense of you do feel a little bit like a Superman. You walk in the room and you're like, don't you worry.
You are though.
I know what I'm doing here.
So, you're so good at it.
Well, I do. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm very lucky to have found 2 things in life now that I can earn a living from, that I can say to a certain extent I do well, especially the celebrancy stuff. There's a lot of celebrants who are really, really great at what they do, but there's a lot that, strangely enough, are not particularly good at communicating. Yeah. We were on a course where 2 of them had such fears of public speaking.
Isn't that most of the job?
right? That's the strange irony, right? Now I've met very, very, very shy people who turn out to be very wonderful performers once they flip a switch.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody's capable of that, but I did admire the fact that people were passionate enough to want to be something, and then they would unfortunately come up against this big thing, which of course is nothing to us. I mean, I say nothing. I'm quite okay at standing and being myself. I can talk to a room and be myself. I don't know where that comes from necessarily, because it's not something I would have been able to do a long time ago. But certainly as a celebrant, it's very, very handy that I can stand there, represent a family, and having guided them through their choices, make sure that by the end of that service, they have no regrets, that they have not overlooked anything, and if anything, they have a new light on the life of somebody. It's amazing how many times I say, so tell me about their life. And they go, well, she was a housewife and then she was a mother and she didn't do very much. I'm like, well, let's talk about her sacrifices. Let's talk
what did she not do?
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about who she was up until the point that she decided she was going to give up her own ambitions for the sake of her family. And of course, that's a lovely spin for a family, to kind of all of a sudden recognize that that person's life was fully lived, was valid. It's what most people are looking for. They just want their life to feel like it was worthwhile.
Well,
right?
He's great at weddings as well, by the way.
He only does the negative stuff.
Weddings is where the money's at.
Yeah.
My
Available
He
in 20
undercharges. He definitely undercharges, I keep saying.
Yeah, she keeps telling me to ramp up the price.
The business acumen coming in there. So what was that experience like for you, Frankie, when you mentioned lockdown and finally feeling like you could breathe? Did you have the same experience or was it different for you?
Different for me. I was living a wonderful life in New York, very busy, fun, writing, and performing. I did my I can't say the word one woman show. Can you say it?
I'm not going to attempt it.
I had a residency at the Green Room 42 in New York, and I did that every month, and it was wonderful. And then obviously my kids rang me up and said, "Mum, you better come home now before they stop flights," because we were worried they'd stop all flights. And so I came back to London, and then my parents in their 80s, they needed help. So I basically took care of my parents for 3 months. And because I didn't have a home in London, I was allowed to book a country home. Do you remember they said you're not allowed to go anywhere?
Yeah.
But I was like, well, I'm not going to live in my mum and dad's 1-bedroom flat, and they need looking after. And I haven't got a home. So I rented a lovely house in the Cotswolds.
Also, you probably kept whoever the owner of that house was.
We kept, exactly.
Like helping them out.
Somebody had some money, So I was with my parents for 3 whole months. Basically.
Wow.
Didn't venture out.
That is a different experience to the
Clean the house, because we couldn't get anyone to help. I did everything, the cooking, the cleaning. And
wow.
It was really wonderful there. And I think because I've been away in New York so much, my parents really appreciated it. And I feel like I sort of did a good daughter thing.
Now, we can't not mention the Tony Award.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because
Casual.
It would be it would be a bad job on our part if we didn't. So when this came about, you find out you're nominated. What's the process from there? Do you know you're going to win?
Not at all, no.
So what was that? Talk us through that experience then. When you find out, or lead up, what happened?
I didn't even think about being nominated because it wasn't something I thought about, because in London I wasn't nominated for an Olivier or anything.
Yeah.
And actually, because I was only 21 years old, it was not in my head. And when I did get nominated, I was like, shit, that's the thing that's on the telly that I watch every year. Oh my God. I couldn't believe it. And then it was a little awkward because there were some people that should have been nominated in our company that weren't. And there's the politics within the company. And I was also up against Judy Kuhn, Gazette. I mean, we both were very sweet about it to each other, but it was also,
awkward. And I'm over the moon.
Delighted.
I really didn't think I was going to win because there was such hassle getting me there, and American Equity were really dragging their feet, and I didn't actually get to the States till halfway through the rehearsal period.
Wow.
And so I didn't expect that any of the Americans would be interested in voting for a Brit. Quite a few voters said to me, "Oh, I voted for you." So I did get a few positive things from people. A lot of it was PR, you know. We were told as actors by our agents, right, now you're nominated, you need to get a PR. We had to get these top PRs, and I got magazines, and I had so much PR. It was unbelievable. It was like a whole new life.
Wow.
Before the actual awards. And then when I actually won, it was such a shock, but I didn't think, yay, I've won. I thought, I must not trip over in these high heels.
Main focus.
That's incredible. Don't fall. And then I suppose halfway through, do you have to make an acceptance speech? Or do you,
Yeah,
did you do
I did
that?
a very simple, short one. Because again, I was
Thank
really
you.
scared about doing that kind of thing.
Yes.
So it was written by...
It's very sweet. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, you can see it. I have
Immediately
a,
watching
We will
that
be
after
watching
this.
that.
and I have a slight American accent, which is so funny, which I didn't know I managed to gain.
And do you, I mean, where is that now?
Well, actually, it's embarrassing.
It's in three
Literally,
pieces.
because when you get it, it's not the one that you get, and then I can't remember if they send it to you or something.
Yeah.
When I got it, literally, I went like that with the spinning thing, and it went, and it fell off. So it broke the day I got it.
Fantastic.
And people will say, "I bet you were drunk falling out of a taxi." No, I wasn't.
That was afterwards. That's how the second bit broke.
Actually, the second bit broke. I can't remember how, but I used to do a big thing on Friends. I remember Paul Baker coming over and he goes, "Is that your Tony?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he looked at it and it just fell straight off, and he was mortified.
You're like, pick it up, pretend to do a speech if you want. No!
I don't know how the other bit broke. No. I mean, it travelled back and forth, and I used to go take it to New York because originally it lived at my mum and dad's house. Then I decided I was going to have it back, that I had to be proud of it. And then I was embarrassed when people came over, so it kept going into my bathroom drawer. And it's only recently I've decided I really need to put that thing up and be proud of it and remind myself that I was good once.
Well, it kind of jumps back to what you were both saying earlier on about celebrating, you kind of know who you are now, and like all of that stuff. By going, I did that.
Yeah.
Like, I'd want that on your mantelpiece.
Yes.
Like.
Well, you've got to get that displayed.
But do you know what I am going to do with it? So I looked it up. I tried to get it fixed, and they said it's not fixable. But also, if you look online, you can find this little old thing. You can buy them anywhere, basically, these Tony Award things. Back then, it was the cheapest award that you could pick up. Now they make them a bit nicer. So I don't even want, a bit of cheap crap. The disc itself is the thing that you need. So I'm going to have the whole thing remolded in bronze and make it like an art piece, but just keep the disc as it was.
Oh, I love
So it's
that.
going to be
That's
the
new
most
to me.
unique.
Because it's
to
sat
you.
languishing in the boot for ages. We're trying to find somebody who can fix it. And people just go, the metals are weird or something like that.
Cheap.
You're like,
Cheap. Yeah.
So then I did tell my manager, Jeremy, the other day that I was going to do that. And he said, no, we must call them and get you a new Tony. But he actually said it in an American accent. But I don't... Jeremy! I don't know if that conversation's happened, but I'm now getting to the stage, I'm getting old. I want it on my wall. So I'm going to do an art piece for sure.
that's one so cool. And please send us a picture when you do. We'd love to see it. You've both done, between you, probably every show I've ever heard of, which is probably not an exaggeration, actually, looking at both of your CVs. So, we can't possibly talk about all of them, but I'd love to find out from you what you think the most difficult show you've done was. What was the hardest one for you to do? And perhaps not because of what was going on in your life at the time, but the actual demands of the show.
I've got one.
Yeah, okay, straight.
Yeah, because it's the one job that I said that it was the closest I came to regretting doing, but only because it didn't turn out to be what we thought it was going to be, and it was Finding Neverland.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
at Leicester Curve.
Mine's at Leicester too, by the way.
Is
How
it?
weird is that? Yeah.
Jinx.
But mine's a positive one, but hard.
Oh, right, okay. Well, this one was hard because it it was being produced by Harvey Weinstein, and Harvey, as apparently it goes, that Harvey was trying to get himself a hit because he was in competition with the producer of Book of Mormon. His name's not coming to me right now, but apparently there's a little bit of a between the two of them. So he was so desperate to have a musical theatre hit. And we had the most incredible people on board. I mean, like, incredible. The director, the musical arranger, everybody, the writer. We had a budget of like millions. And it was lavish. It was huge. But it never settled. It was like every day we had to come and do something differently because Harvey didn't want it that way. You know, I don't think he quite grasped really what putting on a musical was like. It was like he was in an editing suite and basically went, I don't like that, let's get rid of that. And so something we'd worked on for weeks all of a sudden was just gone. But then a week later it'd be back in, you know, but just on a whim like that. And I used to see Rob Ashford, our director, come in every day. And there's one time he sat us all in the stalls and he went, remember how I said change is good? So
That's when everyone goes,
yes, no, exactly. And it was like that. At one point, we were having to learn a song. We were doing a song at night. And by all intents and purposes, I felt it was a really, really good song. But now we had to learn in a different key with different words, but to the same tune and slightly different choreography. So while we were doing the show at night, we were rehearsing it differently during the day. And then literally 3 nights later, we'd have to switch it over just like that. Now, it's that kind of stuff that doesn't allow you to settle ever as a performer either, you know? And I just remember the daily dramas that were met with. And you know, we'd heard that basically by the end of it, he'd lost the plot, Harvey, you know, and he was getting... He had James Corbin in watching one of the shows and he gave him prompts that he had to shout out and kind of interact with the audience. Yeah, because there was some lines where all of a sudden it became pantomimic. And he obviously didn't recognize that that's something we do once a year. Yeah. You know, one section of the year. And so, you know, you'd get this character to say something out and then he thought the audience would respond, and when they didn't, he got James Corbin to do it and shout out this response, and we were like, oh, wow, okay. So the long and the short of it is, by the end of it, he sacked everybody, and he did that different, but very different production on Broadway with Take That writer
Gary Barlow.
Who directed that one?
Modernised it.
Someone else.
Someone else.
Oh yeah, no, somebody else.
Because that was the one I did see. I did see
You
that
saw
one.
that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
I mean, we had, it was an extraordinary talent on board, and as a company, we were really, really bonded. But the daily hell of kind of not being able to do our jobs properly, it still teaches you something, of course.
God,
Yeah.
It's one of the rare people in our industry that you can now say the truth about what that experience is. Because of what's happened, you can go, yes, that was an awful experience.
Yeah.
Whereas isn't it nuts that if none of that had come out, you'd have to still be like, and it was fine. And I loved it.
And this is the fear that he ruled with, you know,
Yeah.
the sense that you said something or did something.
you're done.
That was you.
Wow.
And he had that power, you know.
And they do. And what was yours, Frankie?
No, mine. When you say difficult, mine wasn't an awful experience at all. My most difficult performance was playing Edith Piaf in Pam Gem's Piaf, and that's because that role is such a car crash of a character, and you're running every single scene. She rules every single scene. You've got to be funny. You've got to be real, and you've got to go through such heartbreak. And I loved every minute of it, but at the same time, the interval, every single night, without fail, not just the first night, every night, I'd come up in the lift to the dressing room and I literally felt like I was just going to keel over. I was sobbing my heart out, and I just felt bruised to the bone. And so it was just, I mean, I only did 6 weeks. I just don't know how somebody could do that role every night for a year or something. I mean, but it was an incredible challenge, and I absolutely loved every minute. And then, and then other little hard things, not really hard, but I did Chicago, and I played Roxy, and I loved that as well. And that wasn't a challenge for the role, but what was really interesting is that I went to play Roxy, and the original Roxy, Ruthie Henschel, was playing Velma. So we went in together, and she wasn't playing her role. And that was quite difficult for me, because I thought she was fantastic as Roxy. I saw her play it. So I was quite daunted by the fact that I had to then play.
And she's there.
She's looking at you.
But it was amazing. We had such fun, and we just became such good friends. We even had a snog. So it was all fine.
In the show? Or no?
You've both done really physically demanding shows as well. Like, I know you did Diner in Starlight Express.
Yes.
When it first opened.
Yes.
You legit look like you didn't remember that for a second there.
No, but you know what? Because I was actually thinking of something else I meant to tell you a bit later, but okay.
We'll get through that. But yeah, you've both done very physically demanding shows. Like, Norman, you've done Munkastrap and Cats. Like
Casual.
Casual.
Just casual Munkastrap.
Was that lots of work then, that one?
Jellicle ball.
It's just a Jellicle ball.
It's got just a
Jellicle ball. Jellicle ball.
Like,
To the end of my days, I'll never get over the fact I've done Cats, for a start.
Yeah, I couldn't get over the fact you'd done Cats. Because it said on his email for ages, but you've taken it off, haven't you? Able mover.
I used to put able mover. It was a laugh, but she thought I was just being, like, somehow kind of knocking myself. It's like, no, it's a get-out clause.
yeah.
Because I remember...
That's what I got on mine.
Exactly.
I'm like, and then their expectation is low.
Exactly.
And they get positively surprised.
And then you show that you haven't got 2 left feet, and they go, "Oh my God, wow!"
You just
Manage
danced in high
expectations.
heels in ABBA, in the...
That's very different. 6-inch platforms are much easier than...
You're not kicking a leg up, are you?
No, exactly. No.
Combine the two, do Cats with 6-inch heels.
Oh my
There you go.
Nope.
I still have nightmares about Starlight. I seriously do. Even like in the last 6 months, I have a nightmare where they're calling me back to say, "Can you do Diner?" It really is. It's a horrendous dream.
But in general, I think jumping from what Bobby said, how do you, or did you approach those things, physically? I know for Starlight, they have a big sort of boot camp where they teach you that stuff, but throughout the run of these shows, and even now, like whenever you're doing things, they're so physically demanding. Do you just allow the show to sort of do that for you, or how do you take care of yourselves alongside it, I suppose?
Oh,
Who's
tuning
going
with
first?
the fitness. Go on, darling.
Well, obviously, when I did Starlight, I was 18, so I didn't even have to think about it. Naturally fit back then. But yeah, I guess I did Chicago in my 40s, so I did a lot of Pilates and yoga. I'm a trained yoga teacher. And also I did the Wild Party when I was 50-something already. I had to dance Drew McConey's choreography.
We saw this.
We both saw it, yeah. It was fantastic.
Well, I also snapped my ACL, so I had it rebuilt, and it's never been the best, but I've somehow managed with my Pilates, yoga and everything, and, in that show, jumping up onto a sofa and, and doing the dancing, I think you can, mind over matter, do it, but you do have to do your stretching. And I would start young. I mean, I think I waited too late to really take my body seriously. But we do have to look after our bodies and do all that stuff, Pilates and yoga and everything. Do you do that as well?
Yeah.
So we would, for us, we're doing kind of strength training along trying to strengthen the body alongside what we'd now call like mobility work, which
yes, I know.
Some yoga fits into what we call mobility, other forms don't, as you well know. I don't know what I'm explaining to you that. Yes, to a certain degree. Yeah, it's something that we're trying to advocate for quite strongly.
Good. Yeah, Pilates I think is really, really, really good one. I mean, I actually have done Pilates since the 80s. I used to call it pilots. It was called Pilates.
Well, Jesus Christ superstar. Happy yourself.
I can't say I've had any kind of particular ethos over my years, but I always find it weird that we say yes to a job and we never fully know what it entails, do we? You know, there's the idea in our head how it's going to go, and then there's something else. And very often, even with something like Cats, we just throw ourselves into it. We give it everything that we can for as long as we can. And I have to say, as much as I was knackered, I was also the fittest I'd ever been. So there's that kind of weird thing where you've got it, but you can't really spend it because you need it for the show. And that was the other thing about leaving, like just finishing Mamma Mia recently. It takes so much out of you. Yeah. So much.
The mega mix at the end. Just that alone. Just that, yeah. It is exhausting.
Even for the 30 seconds that the dads are involved in the mega mix. But when you think about what it takes out of you, and you've got the day where you feel like you want to get on with your life, but you can't do very much because you've always got the show in the back of your head. Vocally, physically, mentally. You're always having to save something for it. And
especially as we were living in the countryside as well. Then,
there is that.
You were doing all the travelling. You know, if you missed a train, it gets so late, and it's a long day.
Yeah, and I wasn't seeing my children. Well, they're not children now; they're teenagers. But I wasn't seeing enough of them. But look, we've enjoyed their heyday of our bodies, right? You know, when you are able to kind of really just throw yourself into it, and at the end of a year's contract, just go and collapse in a heap. But we were talking earlier today about, you know,
I pulled my hamstring. I
was saying that to Stefan.
Slowly, I was like, I can't get fast.
We're almost paying now for all of our adventures, you know. And
I haven't done anything apart from a few tummy exercises.
But I mean, you know,
and then it's still gone. Yeah. Well, do you know what? I think that's what we were saying, and one of the reasons what we're trying to advocate for this stuff, and people starting this a bit younger, is, you know, we're not quite the spring chickens we used to be, and our bodies are feeling the wear and tear of the demands of the industry and all the other things we put them through. And you only realise when it's a bit too late, and you go, oh God, my knees are trapped. You know, you did your AC. Paying for it or dealing with that thing and trying to compensate, trying to find ways to strengthen around and manage that thing. And you go, okay, well, how do we exist in a world where we have enough care of our young performers that it just doesn't happen, you know, with that crazy demand?
When you're young, though, you never think it's going to happen. It always seems so far away.
And equally, do you want to compromise on what you want to give? You know, if you were to know what was going to come, would you still want to not just give it everything and think, you know, I'm going to enjoy those years. So even if I'm absolutely screwed by the time I'm 45, and dancers, oh my God, dancers, I have nothing but respect for dancers. They give the most, they hurt the most, they get paid the least. They take the first bow, which is, to all intents and purposes, is deemed kind of like the least important bow, right? And yet they just keep doing it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Actually, turn that around.
Well, the bands like don't reflect the level of effort put in.
No, exactly.
It's not effort level.
Reputation.
Yes. People go on and do one number in an entire show.
Oh my God,
They're on for 3 minutes and might get the last bow. And might get the biggest audience reaction because
well,
reputation,
that's why we should all be doing Shakespeare bows.
They're
all coming on mask.
Really nice.
We haven't even delved into the Shakespeare you've done. I would love to jump into that. I'm not sure we've got. But I don't want to keep you because we've promised that we'd sort of keep this in a thing. But
it's up to you guys because you're the ones that have to do the editing.
No, we're fine. It's just whether you have the studio.
We do.
Oh, we do.
This is our studio. We're fine. And so let's talk about doing Shakespeare because there's this wonderful. Almost, you know, it's kind of being demolished a little bit now with people like Hannah Waddingham kind of coming into the fore and going, you know, standing on that stage and going, hey guys, you know, you can employ music theatre people to do other things.
That was lovely, wasn't it?
Thank goodness on that kind of scale. But so, you know, when you have somebody, you know, you've done plays yourself as well, Frankie, as well, that it's a really good example for people of going, hey, you could. There are fantastic actors in music theatre, so when you're sat there going, I've done a bunch of Shakespeare too, I was poring over some of the roles that you played, can you just tell us a little bit about that and perhaps the importance of it, you think, for making a good music theatre performer, like the acting behind it?
Well, first off, just to point out, in America, there's no such kind of delineation. You're a performer, you're a performer. And crossing over is, if anything, it's just because it's competition that might prevent you. It's not because you stay in that cubbyhole.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
We're a bit cliquey here.
Yeah, a little bit. They just seem to go, and I think it's also people's view of musical theatre. They don't deem it to be deep, which is just ridiculous. Now, when there's as many bad plays as there are bad musicals out there, But the wonderful irony for me, Shakespeare-wise, is that it was Rob Ashford who really got me onto that path, because he became a director. He was a choreographer. He choreographed Guys and Dolls, and Michael Grandage had said to him, I think you should direct. But when he was going to co-direct the Scottish play with Kenneth Branagh, he brought us musical theatre people in, because he recognised that not only, it helped us Scottish, but he knew that we certainly had miles on the clock in terms of stage experience, but also that we were capable of going to the places required for these parts. To me, Shakespeare's just almost like singing. It pretty much is. It's got a tempo. It's got all this incredible kind of musical dynamicism to it, in terms of breath control, in terms of crescendo, but also it's just the juiciest language you can ever, as a performer, wrap your mouth and your head and your soul around. I really do. To me, it's like a religion, in the dependency, the faith that you can put into this and what it gives back to you. And I think it's a shame if kids ever step away from that, especially as performers, because it expands your mind, man. It really, really does. And Ian Holm called it jewels in the mouth.
Yeah.
When you get some of that speech in your body, it'll take you places that you never felt you were capable of as an actor. I'm with a good director, of course.
I'm fortunate. My girlfriend humours me when I start reciting sonnets at home. She's like, he's off again. He's like, okay, fine.
Is she in the business as well?
She's a performer as well, yeah. Primarily dancing is perhaps her foremost skill. I hope she wouldn't mind me saying that. So when the sonnets come out, she's like, here we go.
What a beautiful thing that you do, though.
Hopefully. I don't think I've ever mentioned that on here.
I know that.
Do you flick the book and then just say stop and then pick one?
Normally, yeah. I mean, I teach some Shakespeare stuff too to students in drama schools, and
fantastic,
going through. So it's
yay! Just keep the faith.
and trying to, and it's music theatre students too. So I teach acting to them. Because that was my training. It's part of why I maybe asked that question. That I trained as an actor, going in, and my career has been musicals and plays in that same, and like you said, I've done some bad plays as well as good plays, and so for me they're the same,
Of course they are.
And when I see a musical that I think is perhaps not so good, it's usually because the acting element isn't there. I think you can sell a dodgy song with some good acting.
I think you
agree.
can.
That was a voice of experience there. Definitely done it.
You can make a dodgy song sound fantastic. But also my musical is actually a play with music, but I think we're calling it a musical on the commercial side of things, really.
Yeah.
So I guess if it has 10 songs, it's a musical, right?
And really, you can try and make that distinction now. Like, War Horse has a bunch of songs in it, but is it a musical? Like it's whatever will sell better. Perhaps.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
You can
I
choose.
like calling it a play with music. It sounds posher.
Yeah, let's play with music. We're in that place. What was I going to say? We also have something in common in that you did the UK tour of Joseph.
Oh,
at one
yes,
point.
when I was 17. Did you also get fired by Bill Kenwright?
I did not know that. That's fantastic. No, I also did that Kenwright UK tour.
Oh, did you do 12 shows a week?
You did it together, didn't you?
We did. We've done Joseph together, but not the Kenwright version.
We did the Palladium one together in town. It was meant to be pre-COVID, was moved to after COVID.
Yep.
And then Bobby did that one on tour after that. But then when I was 21, I did the Kenwright.
12 shows a week.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was a narrator. I was
Yeah.
17. And by show 8, I was doing what we call the Rex Harrison performance.
I mean, but what else are you meant to do?
It was written for a man.
Yeah.
I mean,
And they shift the keys around for you, or was that
no,
before they
all
did
the
that?
original.
Because they now, well,
Do they shift them?
they shift
Damn
some of the
it.
keys
Oh,
around.
yeah.
It depends on who
Not
it is.
too old to play the narrator.
So the Palladium one was shifted around wherever the person wanted it, but the Kenwright one still at the time was not so much. Was it the same when you're doing 12 shows a week? We had
Yeah.
some. If you went up late, you would come down in the half of the next show, and we're there in our split sole white capizios,
Living the dream.
putting on the costume from the start of the show that has not been dried. It's still sweaty, and they're like, let's go
my
again,
God.
then. Ruben.
I'm really grateful for that show, and I'm grateful that Bill fired me. And he also loved. I mean, I'm very sad that Bill has died. Actually, really like Bill, but he's happy that he fired me too, because I wouldn't have got Starlight and I wouldn't have got Les Mis. I'd have been too busy touring.
Doing that. We
So it
can't.
worked out in my
really worked out,
advantage.
yeah.
Why did you get fired? What?
Well, because I couldn't do 12 shows a week. I hadn't had a singing lesson then, so I actually did take singing lessons after that. I was also smoking. I'm trying to do the narrator 12 shows a week, you know.
It's such a hard vocal
Yeah, it's a brutal one.
track. I'm like very glad.
Yeah. Incidentally, I stopped smoking then and haven't smoked since, but everyone does think I'm a smoker.
You got that quality to it.
I mean, I was only smoking like 1 or 2 cigarettes or something, so I was trying to be big, 17.
But that's what people did, right? Especially if you danced. It
Oh,
was like,
God, yeah.
if you danced, you smoked.
Yeah.
After every audition, I used to, like, that was my post-coital.
So auditions, quick and disappointing. Yes, I'm right. Yeah.
I said, you know, on the plug level, you know, when we're going back to the plug of Frankie and Beausy, we might, it's not definite, we might do Edinburgh Festival. We're discussing
Oh, yeah,
it now,
yeah.
aren't we? So
thinking
that
about it.
might happen.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
It would be fun, yeah.
Yeah, it would be. A lot of work. A lot of work.
Yeah.
12 shows a week, maybe. We'll see you there. Yeah. The trailer for that looks wicked, and also that people find all that online, and we'll link it in the episode
yeah.
stuff
Thank you.
too.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess because you've done so many interviews in your careers, right, and so many things. I wonder if you could tell us something that maybe people don't know.
We should ask us that earlier.
We'll pause everything.
Yeah, you will pause everything.
in a second while you think. Bobby, if I asked you while they think, could
Yeah.
you tell people listening something they don't know
Something they don't
about you? Not
No.
like just a piece of science.
Oh, yeah. Just rack out some science. Okay, let me think of something that I don't, that people wouldn't know about me. Some people may not know about this about me. I'm half Czech.
Okay.
Not many people know that about me. So
That is... I did.
you
but
did.
Oh,
I
you
know
did.
you did.
No, I didn't.
There you go.
I didn't know your name until an hour and a half.
Exactly. There you go.
But I can tie in with that. My mother is Bosnian.
Okay.
Yeah, she's from former Yugoslavia.
Ah.
A lot of people don't know. They probably think I'm just out and out Scottish, but I
Yeah.
am not. I'm a half breed.
Have you ever had one of those DNA things done?
Yes.
How was it?
There was no Scottish.
What?
There was no Scottish.
Were you mortified?
I was bamboozled. Absolutely like, what the
You're like, Dad?
Mom? It was 47% English. There was no Scottish, and there was 1.6% Balkan. That's my mum. So I'm like, so where's all this other stuff coming from?
Whoa.
I was more Italian Greek than I was any Scottish or Balkan. So you can imagine the email that I then sent. I think this one was called 23andMe. So it's not Ancestry.com. I got this really lovely phone call from a guy in Israel who said, "Look, it's not exactly an exact science right now. You could go back to these results in a year's time and find out they've changed." I'm like, okay, but this is kind of odd that there is absolutely no Scottish in there. And he said, well, sometimes also you get throwback genes. So it's not just your mum and your dad, it's what's gone before.
Right.
Even though there's still no English anywhere as far as I can find in my tree. So I haven't looked at it recently to see if it's changed at all. But yeah, so that was I just genuinely did say,
You're like, good.
Mom.
Cool.
Okay.
I can't think of anything that nobody knows. Can you think of anything? I don't know if I haven't really hidden anything.
You look so mischievous right now.
Up to something.
I haven't hidden anything at all. I can't think of anything that's really...
I mean, she's always coming up with really kind of fascinating stories that she always then kind of goes, oh, it's not that important. You know,
Yeah, you always say, write it down, put it in your book.
She's trying to do a book about her mom, Sylvia Young, because she's got this incredible story.
A movie.
And a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But hers is just as fascinating. It's not quite the same origin story, but in terms of who you hung out with and who you've snogged and people love that juice, right?
Yeah.
In the States they think snog means having sex. By the way, snog means having a nice sort of juicy kiss.
You think snog means sex?
Yes.
Wow.
I got in real
that
trouble with
yogurt
an
company's
ex-boyfriend there.
Gee, they cannot go
The wrong crowd is going in there.
That's great. Like, okay, yes. I mean, I would read that book.
Except I can't think of anything right now that you don't know about.
I'll tell you what, the one thing, so the first time I met Frankie's kids, she disappeared
Oh
too.
no, don't tell
She
me.
disappeared. She disappeared.
It's not true.
Well, we don't
Okay.
know.
No! I
She
know.
went to the bathroom and they went, do you know that the song Kiss from a Rose by Seal is about our mum?
They think it is, it's not.
They think it is.
Even if it's not, that's fantastic.
that's a
I know,
fantastic
but you can at least tell them why they think that. Yeah, yes, you can. Come on, this is exactly what this podcast is all about.
Okay, so I did hang out with him for a bit. We were in the next door studios while he was doing that album and I was doing another album. And we went to the Brit Awards together and it was Valentine's Day. And we came back to my house with a whole group of people and I cooked pasta at 3 a.m. for everybody. And we had a lovely evening. We did have a little kiss, okay? And,
A snog, you might say.
Was it a snog?
It was a snog, okay? When I got back, there was a beautiful bouquet of red roses and the whole garden was lit up with snow. That is the only thing.
I think that's enough.
Yeah, that feels pretty conclusive.
But he was recording.
first.
He was recording that album at the time. He may have already written that song, so
So you might have at least sung
it might have
with your
been.
mind.
Maybe a couple of lyrics were inspired by the roses and the snow, but not me. Surely
Compare you
not.
to a kiss from a
I can't believe you
Going
said
through it in my
that.
head.
Well, you left the space open. I merely stepped in.
I love it.
Oh my God.
Well, want to get in the bin?
Yeah, why not? Is there anything about fitness, health, wellness, or the industry that you would like to see get in the bin?
The industry.
Yeah, you can throw the industry. You can throw the entire industry in the bin.
Fucking hell.
We actually,
You can swear.
You did ask us to prepare this, and I didn't.
Well, I was going to say something as simple as fad diets. Because I just think it's utterly ridiculous. I mean, we've evolved over thousands and thousands of years. It's simple, as far as I'm concerned, it's simple arithmetic. It's calorific deficit, right? You want to lose weight, stop putting in as many calories, that your body can't burn. That's overly simplifying, but I listened to Ranjan Chatterjee, Four Pillar Plan.
Yeah.
I think he's covered everything in there. I think it's worth worth anybody having a read of that in terms of diet, exercise, meditation, sleep, all those kind of things. But,
I think you're right, though. It's the fad diets that they then get into the brain. I mean, I'll go back to a little bit of history. When I was in before I was in Starlight Express, when I did the workshop, I was sent to a diet doctor at the age of 17. And I was put on diet pills by the production. Just saying. That didn't start me off in a good way for having a healthy attitude to food. And I feel like I am lucky, actually. I think my metabolism is reasonably good, like throughout my life. And now I'm in my late 50s. It's really hard for me to I can't have the teenage body I had. I could probably if I worked hard at it, but it's not easy. But I do think the fad diet thing in back then in the 80s, we used to have like books with different diets in, and it was like the avocado diet. Let's do that today. Let's do that. It was, you were focused on food, and the Beverly Hills diet. I don't know if you heard of that. Mm-hmm. We did that. My sister did very well on that. Got very skinny. And then very ill.
Yes, unsurprisingly.
Sounds about right.
Well, that's it. I'd love to just pick your brains a little bit more about that, because a fad diet usually just cuts out a whole huge either food groups or huge chunks of what you're taking. So you result in that outcome that you're in a deficit for. Let's say you cut out carbs, it's because you're not taking in as much food. Because realistically, if you just eat protein and you're a little fat, you're like, well, you're not eating very much then.
So really, ultimately, it is calories are the thing, really. I think I agree with you. But I also did the keto diet, and I put on about half a stone. And I don't think to this day I've ever really, I can get it off, but it keeps going back. I'm always talking about stuff like that, and I wish I just blanked it out, but it's become a bit of a thing in my life.
I can see how it becomes a vicious cycle, though. You can get really wrapped up in this belief that there is a magic kind of pill or something out there is going to do the work for you. But
there is all these injections at the moment, but they're not very healthy. It's very worrying that people are taking that stuff.
I understand some people are fighting their DNA, though.
There's two. There's DNA and there's your... sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, there is a place for those injections. There is a place they serve a purpose, but
certain people,
for the wider population,
No.
And that's how they're being marketed by a lot of companies, and how things like TikTok and Instagram are pushing them as the solution, and they're not the solution.
It's much worse in America.
Yeah, we're going to do the Zoe. We've bought it.
We're starting Zoe.
Fascinating.
We're going to start it on the 16th or 16th.
It was meant to be tomorrow, but
we're not going to be in the same. We want to do it together, and we're not in the same city tomorrow.
First couple of weeks.
Really? Why? Tell me why.
Because they will remove a whole bunch of stuff from your diet in order to find out how it spikes your glucose. That's one of the first things that they'll do. So they'll send you bits of food to eat or tell you what.
I've got a dinner party on the second day. I just remembered. Can we still do that?
Not anymore.
We might have to start a day later.
It does say for 2 weeks, then you eat normally, and then they.
When do you eat normally? The first 2 weeks you don't eat normally.
It depends. So you'll have to check what
have you done it.
No, I've just had a bunch of clients who've come on board who either are doing it or have done it previously.
Okay. Right.
So I've got one client who's doing it now, in spite of my recommendations. So the food they send you tends, because it doesn't have a whole bunch of ingredients in it, they try and make it look nice, but it probably won't taste that nice. But it's to serve a different purpose. It'd be fascinating to hear from you how
that isn't for the first 2 weeks, though. That's just the first day, isn't it?
There's one day of eating muffins.
The first day is just the thing they send you, and that's like
cookies or
misery. But then it's rapidly better.
We watched somebody do it, and they had 3 big muffins they had to have for breakfast, and then you have 2, and then you have 1. And it did look like hard work.
Delicious. Chewy cardboard, but fascinating. I would love to find out a little bit more about that another time.
We're going to film ourselves having it. That's why we want to be together. It would be quite interesting.
Yeah, that'd be fascinating.
That'd be fascinating. And just to jump back to that 17-year-old, you getting that being told to
diet pill.
2 questions. How and why did that come about? That's actually one question. I've disguised it. And then what do you think the effect of that has been on you since then?
Well, it came about because it was the 80s, and everyone was the fashion then was to be skinny, straight up and down. And I've always had a bit of, some thighs on me. And I was only about 8'4" or something, and 17, but I was told I needed to get skinnier for the show.
Wow.
I mean, it was just straightforward that. And of course, then I didn't even realise that I was even fat. But suddenly I saw myself as being fat. I was lucky I never became anorexic or bulimic or anything like that, but I still had a mental problem with food. I mean, I didn't stop me eating it, or more of a mental problem about my image, I think. And that was all before. Can you imagine that? Now with all the Instagram and everything. But I think also I don't want to blame the producers. I think that's what they did then. They didn't realise it was going to be it would affect my mental health on it.
And is this even before the show got going?
This is
when you would have
before.
even burnt calories anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's an exhausting show.
Yeah. Yeah, it was before.
Madness. It is madness. Hopefully that's going away.
Hopefully.
No blame to anyone. It was.
No.
I don't think they realised.
Well, also at
It's
the
a
time it
sentiment
was
of
more
time,
common,
yeah.
right? And so it's not. We're not going, oh God, those people, how dare they? To a certain extent, we're viewing it through today's lens, which is
Yeah.
which is always
Yeah.
worth
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Can't. It was fine then.
Yeah.
Inverted
It's
commas.
bad for you. I think it's like speed.
Well, it's awful.
Oh,
It's
that-
usually those pills are just
horrific.
loads and loads and loads of caffeine is the primary ingredient in there. So it just ramps up the amount of caffeine you take in during the day. And if you were dancing, then you were smoking and probably drinking a lot of coffee, or at least perhaps if you
I
were
wasn't,
or weren't.
but yeah.
By the tea you had earlier on, I was like, maybe not for you, but for
I had
most.
stopped the one cigarette a day, and
By that point, you're fine. But for most
Yeah.
people, if they're taking any caffeine in any other way, then you are at some lovely risk.
Shit. Danger.
Yay! Moving on.
Yeah.
Is it?
Do you have any advice to people that would be entering the industry now?
well,
Links back to what you said before.
I think it's a tricky thing, this whole thing of entering it now. I think it was hard enough when we entered it, but now it's so hard because I have to admit, I think there are more talented people now than there were because everybody watches these shows on TV, the pop idols and all that sort of stuff, practice in their bedroom. They all can sing. Everyone can sing if they want to sing, and they do it. And there's some brilliant, brilliant people out there and so much competition that the advice I give is absolutely like Beausy said earlier, make sure you have other things in your life that you love that you can do. It's so important to create and do other things. It's not all about being on the stage. I know we've been lucky, so it's hard. It's horrible for me to give the advice as I've been on the stage and had some success. But I think you've got to remember it's about today. Enjoy today and enjoy your life, because this career is just with the hope, constantly having hope is just not very healthy. But don't not do it. And if you're talented, definitely do it. It's a shame to waste that talent. But you can't be guaranteed, and it's so competitive.
Yeah, isn't it? It's a shame to sound so kind of down on the whole thing, but only because we've all witnessed how many colleges and schools there are now churning out students every year to varying degrees of skill, but because we know what it feels like to want to really do something, and you don't want to dissuade, you don't want to taint that passion. So I mean, look, if anything, still at least have a sense of your own uniqueness. Don't try to be like anybody else. Because if anything, if you do make it, then you can know that it is because it's who you are, not for any kind of pretense. But I
think the thing I was told by, I'm so name droppy this thing, for musical theatre people anyway, Michael John Lacusa, who wrote The Wild Party. So I was feeling a bit low when I first moved to New York, and he said to me, just create every day. And I did, and that's when I started writing as well.
that's beautiful.
But I think it's important to remember, why you're here. What is it? Because you want to be famous? Because I'm sure you can do that, but that's not probably the best way of being happy.
I've always said success is longevity. It's still saying 28 years later that you're doing it.
That you can still do it.
Yeah.
But just create every day and enjoy it. Like, creating doesn't mean that you're performing, doesn't mean that you're writing. It could be anything. I mean, I also create at home. Don't I?
Yeah. I think that's beautiful advice, because when we consider what do we get out of doing what we do, it's how it makes us feel to be creating, to be singing, to be communicating in a way that I think is beyond reality. Because art expands your mind, it expands your soul, it expands your heart. So, and they always say, do it for you, don't do it for other people. I think David Bowie says the minute you start doing it for someone else, it's no longer art.
Yeah. I do feel like there's a lot of that in the theatre business as well, especially if you have to do a show and you're told do this, do that, especially you're covering something. It's a lovely job, so I'm not dissing it, but it's just depends what you want. It depends what makes you happy,
Yeah, and that's something you were saying that you covered a bunch of people and then stepped in to take over those roles, like Sky, for instance. Is that creatively and right at the start of this, you were chatting about you realised you were able to create. Is that something that you've really sort of experienced during that time? That maybe.
Well, of course, it depends on the production.
Yeah,
there is the creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I did Mamma Mia twice. Right, I did it 12 years ago. I went back, and look, you're constrained to a certain extent, right? But they do afford something of who you are to come through in the part. And I don't mean to decry takeover roles, because they are incredible. Yeah. It's a bit different with Les Mis. I think because it's music from beginning to end, you can't really do much more with it, but your voice will bring something.
Yeah.
And you will still learn plenty by playing those parts or by watching your peers alongside you and stuff. So, no, I'm not saying there's anything against taking over and any lack of creativity there. But when I reached a point where Frankie was asking, shall we do a show together? And I went, I've only ever done takeover roles. And I thought, but hold on, I've also, for 28 years, one has been still kind of doing it in one's head and one's, it's an expansion of oneself, isn't it? I've been developing as a human being, and creatively I will have been doing things, so I could sit down with Frankie and say, okay, let's do something. And actually, we've created something that I think is a wonderful hybrid of our two careers. And if anything, we know theatre. We know what an audience likes and doesn't like. We know that what we should try and get out of an audience in terms of wanting them to feel something, not just sit and watch and listen, So, yeah.
I think they're such different skills. Sorry if that question was worded poorly. When you're taking over or understudying, it's, which I've done plenty of, I know you have too, that where, it would be so easy to just copy what came before or what's on there each night. And the task is the opposite, right? Is to go, no, I'm going to bring my version and fit it in these constraints. In the same way with Les Mis, like you said, you go, well, these are the constraints. What do I bring to this? So
sometimes they make it hard for you, though, don't they? Which is not nice.
I'm going to let you off the hook. Your question wasn't poorly worded. It was actually, it was talking about my own insecurities. So, as somebody that's always felt very, very lucky to be doing what I do, when I step into a role, I've never pushed the envelope, really. I've never tried to do anything differently, because it's not really been, I'm not like this one here, who is an artist through and through. I've never really pushed things in that respect. So when I was taking over, I wasn't going to rock no boats. I wasn't going to try and be anything really, really different, not in those early days, because you just want to do the job that's asked of you. And of course you want to keep working, But, don't put a cap on your creativity if you feel that you've got some, what's the worst they can do?
Say, don't do that.
Give you say no. All right.
No, but you wrote a poem this
There was a girl called Frankie.
I want some more of that.
And also, so I write poems, he writes poems. We also, when I've been writing my plays, I've been getting feedback from Beausy, which has been really, really helpful. In fact, that's how we sort of got together, as in a romantic way, because he read my play and gave me some great feedback. And really helpful.
Can you imagine the trust that somebody's given, like somebody like Frankie's given you when she says, "Can you read my play?"
No, it's because nobody else would read.
But that's true.
It's so exposing as well when it's your
Yeah.
creation. You know, I love writing poetry as well, and to show it or allow somebody to read it, any kind of creation that you've written or songs.
Yeah. Oh,
You did it in front of my whole family.
I did. But
Moving on.
We're on edge it.
Yeah, but this is back to the point. You don't do it for anybody else initially. You do it for yourself because it's something that feels like you just have to do. And then, of course, what we hope, I mean, you will have started this podcast as doing something because you want to do it. You have a connection with each other and you bring an energy that's combined and you put it out there and you hope a person or two is going to like it. Yeah. If it turns out to snowball, then that's the incredible reward that you get from it, isn't it? I mean, nobody like Bob Dylan or David Bowie ever set out to do something to entertain the masses. They did their own thing. They had their own voice, their own sense of creativity, and they were creators. You know, they were unique. You know, nobody could ever kind of accuse them of pandering.
Yeah,
or
that's the word, isn't it? You
Pandering.
don't want to pander.
Don't pander.
Yeah.
No.
I love that. And, yes, it's true. When we started out, we were like, I don't think anyone's going to listen to this, but we'll do it anyway.
You record it and then you just let it out there, and you're like,
Well,
of course.
Yeah, on the first day it goes out, and you're like, oh, 6 people have listened, like within an hour, and you're like, okay, that's good. And then
you're like 6 people.
And then now we're in this wonderful position that we are now, and that's
it's incredible.
It's super lovely to be in that place, and have wonderful guests come in like yourselves all the time. Now,
I don't know where it just happened.
But as best you can, try not to change your facial expressions when I say this next bit. We'll look away from you as well in this moment. I love that the mittens are on.
Oh, the mittens.
We are now going to guess whether you have managed to successfully put in a lie, and this was all on you now, Norman. And if so, what we think the lie was, and if you're listening at home or wherever you might be, encourage you to take a moment, reflect, think back on what it might be. Bobby, do you think that there's been a lie?
No, I don't.
Okay. If there has been a lie, I think it was that there was no Scottish.
Oh, nice.
And that it was expertly weaved in.
That would be incredible if that's the lie.
But I am also leaning towards none.
The reason I think none, because I'd forgotten about Liar Liar. So,
okay. Would you tell us, did you manage to tell us a lie?
I didn't.
We'll take that.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah. I'm so sorry about that. I feel supremely honest in this game. And I thought, I didn't want to throw somebody under the bus by, causing a piece of scandal that didn't actually exist.
At least we get to go, it's not true.
Yeah. Exactly.
Should we move on?
Yeah. Should we play a game of this or that?
Oh.
What about me? Did I lie or not?
Oh, you said you weren't going to.
But did I? But did I?
Now
I think you did.
Yeah, now that you're leading us to that you did.
And in which case, I have no clue.
I'm lost.
Let's still go no.
Yeah, let's go now.
I didn't snog Ruthie.
That's a great lie.
I believe that, though.
I fully believe that.
I mean, I love her, but we haven't had a snog yet.
And there's still time.
Yeah, there's plenty of time.
I feel, because at the start you said we'll put all of that onto Norman, so I was like, okay, we're not expecting
I think
a lie
I just
from
said,
you.
did I say I wasn't going to lie? Or
She
did
said
I say
she felt bad about lying.
Yeah, I didn't say I wasn't, though.
Fair.
Right?
Well, it's a very
you
good
can
lie.
go back and find that I did lie about what I said.
Yeah, and we're in this play within a play.
Everyone's lying. I lied about the fact I was going to lie.
I can't remember what I said exactly.
God, that's quite a good way out of it. Let's start off, because we're going to do this or that.
Yeah, this or that.
I love this.
I think we should maybe start off with you, Norman, because
Fine.
some of the questions are the same, and you said it would. Perhaps
Yeah.
hearing them the first time will give you a moment to think.
Yeah, with my
Little rehearsal.
She should go in a booth. Like Mr. and Mrs.
I'm going to remind something to you. Right.
Okay, let me get a minute on the clock. Hold on.
There'll be a minute. I'm going to fire through these as best as I can.
You're very quick. When you did Sebastian, you were like...
You are very good at doing this
I couldn't
quickly.
even take them in.
You said that now. It's like,
The pressure.
I'll warm up here.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Eggs or bacon?
Eggs.
White bread or brown bread?
Brown.
The US office or friends?
Friends.
Cardio or resistance training?
Cardio.
McDonald's or Burger King?
McDonald's.
Singing or acting?
Singing.
Macbeth or Midsummer Night's Dream? Yoga or Pilates?
Pilates.
Family Guy or Love Island?
Family Guy.
Domino's Pizza or Papa John's?
Domino's.
Sport or dance?
Dance.
Alcohol or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Matching socks or mismatching socks?
Miss.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Danny Zuko or Sky Masterson?
Danny Zuko.
Game of Thrones or Glee?
Oh, Glee.
Books or Kindle?
Books.
Clean shaven or beard?
Clean.
Personal chef or personal stylist?
Personal what?
Personal chef or personal
Chef.
stylist?
Oh, personal chef.
Opening night or press night?
Oh, opening night.
Sexy or smart?
Sexy.
Shower or bath?
Shower.
Ewan McGregor or Patrick Swayze?
Oh,
It's brutal.
that's awful. I'm sorry, Ewan. Swayze baby.
Swayze said dogs or babies?
Babies.
Snakes or badgers?
Badges.
Theme park or water park?
Theme park.
Running or walking?
Walking.
Director or choreographer?
Direct. Oh, choreo. Choreo.
Bobby or Stefan?
Oh. Boban.
Boban.
Well done.
Well done.
Okay.
1 minute 18.
I could feel almost your stress on the side of that too.
I still didn't take in half of that.
Was I meant to get it within a minute?
Yes.
That's the goal.
I won't, but
1 minute 18 is good.
It's not a rule, it's there
It's
for
just
fun.
about
So
the
we're in a
answers.
Have
lovely
you
place.
ever managed it within a minute?
Yes, we've had some people down to
2 seconds?
someone got it in 42 seconds.
Okay, well, you get the benefit of this.
no, I won't because I'll be slow. But
Only
fine.
3 of them are different.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I didn't even hear some of them.
And if it's slow,
I
I'll
really
make it
take
much
things
clearer. I'm sorry, I got you on
No,
the
no,
personal
this is
chef,
with the
didn't I? And I
personal
was like,
chef.
I'll try.
Of which I
Anyway.
actually do have. She's amazing.
I'm right.
Yes, I am.
Creating, you see, every day.
Always creative.
Yes. It's an epic skill. Right.
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Eggs or bacon?
Eggs,
White bread or brown bread?
Brown.
The US office or friends?
friends,
Cardio or resistance training?
resistance,
McDonald's or Burger King?
McDonald's,
Singing or acting?
singing,
Broadway or West End?
Broadway,
Yoga or Pilates?
yoga,
Family Guy or Love Island?
Family Guy,
Domino's Pizza or Papa John's?
Domino's,
Sport or dance?
dance,
Alcohol or chocolate?
alcohol,
Matching socks or mismatching socks?
matching,
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke,
Eponine or Queenie?
Queenie, fuck it,
Game of Thrones or Glee?
Glee,
Books or Kindle?
books,
Clean shaven or beard?
clean,
Personal chef or personal stylist?
stylist,
Opening night or press night?
opening,
Sexy or smart?
sexy,
Shower or bath?
shower,
Crazy Cocks or the Green Room 42?
crazy cocks,
Dogs or babies?
babies,
Snakes or badgers?
snakes,
Theme park or water park?
theme,
Running or walking?
walking,
Director or choreographer?
director,
Bobby or Stefan?
both.
Hey!
58 seconds.
20 seconds quicker.
58
And you said you were going to be crap.
Yeah, but I did hear it before.
She'd prepped the first couple of answers.
So quick.
I didn't realise how much I had taken in.
Ah,
But thank you. But
that's right. I paved the way.
And some surprises in there. I feel like anyone that has kids, when you say dogs or babies, they're like, I have to say babies.
Yeah, it's funny how many times we thought about who's going to hear this.
Yeah.
I influence the answer.
my dog is old. He's 13. And I was up in the middle of the night while he was sick today. And
He stepped in
So-
shit last night just before we got to bed. And this morning he was sick on the bedroom
shower.
floor. And it's like having
honestly,
babies. But he's 13 years old. He's a cantankerous little shit. He stands behind you, and when you turn and you stumble on him, he snarls at you, and you're like, "Get away from me, then!" You know?
Can they still see?
but he looks like,
can
not
see.
that well.
That
He
might be
can
all.
see. He can catch the ball, can't he? But he can't hear. But he looks like butter wouldn't melt. So.
He is also kind of sweet, but he's an old man.
What type of dog is he?
Half Westie, half Bichon, called a Wichon.
Wichon.
Or Westie Poo. No, not Westie Poo. Wichon, yeah.
So quite small.
Medium.
Yeah, he's kind
Small
of
to
long,
medium.
isn't he?
Yeah, he's
Small
got.
to medium.
Yeah.
Just small to medium size.
That was the least important question I asked today.
Important.
Anytime there's a dog mentioned, I'm like, there's a dog. Like you said, you might be bringing the dog
Yeah, my
today.
friend Sadie's dog, Cherry, I look after sometimes, and I was meant to have her
cute.
today.
But she wheezes every time she sees Frankie.
She gets really excited.
Just goes, psst. And even if she then goes away for 2 minutes, then comes back again.
I know. So I have to go. When I know she's going to get
All the
excited,
time.
I have to run to the front door and open the door and let her go out and then stroke her because then she can wee outside.
Oh, that's so nice to have somebody that loves you that much.
Imagine that.
So cute.
Being a human.
Well, thank you so much for coming to join us.
Thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure. Yeah.
If you're listening, check out Frankie's new music coming later this year.
Oh, yeah. I also sing with my friends Sam Bonner and Sadie Frost. I said Sam Bonner, but actually goes under the name of Sam Kelser now. And we're called Yin and Tonic, and we're doing feel-good, funky music this year, and it's coming out track by track on Spotify and all that stuff.
Yeah, and you can find some stuff already. We had a listen, and the yoga videos
the other
too.
stuff is already out.
Yeah, so find that on there, and then you absolutely must book in for the Frankie and Beausy performances.
Yes.
So I've got Manchester and London in February, and then obviously, as you mentioned, we might be expanding elsewhere.
Yeah, and it will be just online. You can find out.
Yeah.
February, March. It was frankieandbeausy.com, right?
Yeah, Beausy spelled like my bow.
Yeah,
B-E-A-U-S-Y.
I mean,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the
that link
description,
the
yeah.
description. And thanks again to you two for your time and energy and all the wonderful things you've shared. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's
Real
been
pleasure.
fun.
And thank you at home or wherever you might be for listening.
Absolutely. And if you've enjoyed the episode, click those like and subscribe buttons and find us on Instagram at Fit2_talk. As always, if you've got any questions you want answered, slide into those DMs. I'll be in there doing something.
He's got nothing to say. He's got something. Thanks again for listening. And if you like what we've heard, we've been Fit2 Talk with our wonderful guests, Frances Ruffelle and Norman Bowman, and your hosts, me, Stefan.
And me, Bobby. And if you didn't like it, we've been Joe Wicks. Peace out.
Yay.